Let us begin with the problem solving for electrostatics. So let us deal with the first question. Two charged particles are placed at a distance of 1 centimeter apart. What is the minimum possible magnitude of the electric force acting on each charge? So over here the nature or the magnitude of charge is not mentioned. So we are considering the minimum possible force is asked. So we are taking the minimum possible charge which can exist, that is the electronic charge. So we are taking charge as 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, and the separation between them is written in this question as 1 centimeter, which we write it as 1 by 100 meter. So for this particular question, we apply the equation F equals K Q1 Q2 by R square, that is E square by R square. And if we substitute the value to get the magnitude of force, we get 9 into 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 1.6 10 to the power minus 19 whole square, and the separation is 1 by 100 whole square. So on solving this value, we get the answer in Newton, which is equal to 2.3 into 10 to the power minus 24 Newton. So let us move to the next question. Four equal charges 2 into 10 to the power minus 6 coulomb each are fixed at the four corners of a square of side 5 centimeter. Find the Coulomb force experienced by one of the charges due to the rest of the three charges. So for this particular question, we begin by drawing a square arrangement which the question is talking about. So we consider a square like this. Now the charges are placed on the vertices of the square. Like this. Now the charges are of equal magnitude. Q equals 2 into 10 to the power minus 6 coulomb. They are fixed at the four corners of the square of side 5 centimeter. So the separation or the side we can say is 5 centimeter, which we mention it as A. So A equals 5 centimeter. Find the Coulomb force experienced by one of the charges due to the rest of the three charges. So I am calculating force on this charge. So the first force which we identify is the repulsion force due to this charge, which will act in this direction. So if I name the charges, I call it as 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we are calling this as F14, the force which the 4 experiences due to 1. Now 3 is going to repel 4 in this direction. So we are calling this as F34. And 2 is repelling 4 in this direction, which we call it as F24. So these are the three forces we identify first of all. Now the magnitude of F14 and F34 is going to be same, because the separation and the magnitude of charge is same for both 3 and 1. So we write this force as K Q1 Q2 by the square side A square. Now if we talk about F24 magnitude, so the separation between the two charges is this time becoming root 2a. So if the side length is a and a, so this the diagonal length will become root 2a. So we write it as kq square upon root 2a whole square, which we write as kq square by 2a square. Now it is important that while solving this out, we make the component and then we write the value of the net resultant value of the force. So for calculating the net resultant, we are first of all calculating the resultant of 3 and 3, 4 and F14. So FR1, I am calling this as FR1, which is equal to F14 magnitude square plus F34 magnitude square, it is because the two forces are at an angle of 90 degree, so their resultant will be along their angle bisector line, that is along F24. So the net resultant magnitude which we talk about is going to be the magnitude of FR1 and the magnitude of F24. So if I calculate the magnitude of Fr1, since both the forces is same, so we write it as F square plus F square square root, which we write as root 2F. So it is equal to root 2F plus F24, where F is written as this force, kq square by a square. So if we put the value, that is we get it as root 2 times of kq square by a square plus kq square by 2a square. kq square by 2 square for F24, kq square by 2a square. So on solving we find that the net resultant is coming out to be 27.56 Newton. Now the only requirement is to substitute the value of k and q and do the mathematical aspect. Let us move to the next question. Two positive charges q1 and q2 are located with radius vector r1 and r2. Find a negative charge q3 and a radius vector r3 of the point at which it has to be placed for the force acting on each of the three charges to be equal to 0. So for this particular question, let us first of all understand the setup. So we are considering the coordinate axis like this, and I am taking that the first particle is located at the position vector r1 vector like this. We place a charge q1 over here. Now the another charge q2 is at position vector r2. So position vector r2 vector, and we place another charge q2 over here. Now along the line joining them, we place another third charge, that is q3, and we consider that this vector is r3 vector. So this is r3 vector. So if I am considering that these are positive charges, that is q1 and q2 are positive charges, so this is a positive charge, this is a positive charge, and that q3 is a negative charge. So I can say that there is the force on q3 is going to be a force along this direction due to 1, and the force on q3 due to the charge 2 is going to be in the opposite direction like this. So using the vector law of addition, I can call this vector as r1 minus r3. So if the two vectors are in order, the resultant is the third side but in opposite direction. So we are using this aspect, and we are writing it as r1 vector minus r3 vector. And opposite to this, we are writing it as r2 vector minus r3 vector. So these are the prerequisites which we set for solving this particular question. That we have considered the three charges q1, q2 and q3 situated at r1, r2 and r3 as shown in the diagram. Now the first thing that we are looking for is the question is asking, find the negative charge q3 and the radius vector r3 of the point at which it has to be placed for the forces acting on each of the three charges to be equal to 0. That is, we are trying to find equilibrium condition. So I am first of all framing the equation for Q3. So for equilibrium of charge Q3, for equilibrium of charge Q3, so I say that the force exerted by 1 on 3 and the sum of the force exerted by 2 on 3 must give you a vector sum of 0. So if I write the vector form of Coulomb's law, so I write it as K. So for 1 and 3 and then 2 and 3, we are writing Q1, Q3, R1 minus R3 upon R1 minus R3's magnitude cubed. So this is the vector form and this is the cube. That is we are multiplying K Q1 Q2 by R square with R cap. So for the next we write K for 2 3, we write it as Q2 Q3 R2 minus R3 upon magnitude of R2 minus R3 whole cube, and we equate this to 0. So this is the first equation which we must understand, that the two forces are balancing each other out. So from here we can say, if we take K common and we knock this out, Q3 common and knock that out as well, so we can write one equation from here, that Q1 R1 minus R3 upon R1 minus R3 cube plus Q2 R2 minus R3 upon R2 minus R3 cube is equal to 0. So we modify this equation to write this. Now one more important thing which we can write is that these two vectors which we discussed about are anti-parallel vectors. So if we talk about their direction, so we can definitely write this way: R2 minus R3 upon magnitude of R2 minus R3, that is R23 cap. Now this is in opposite direction to R13 cap, so I'm writing with a minus sign, R1 minus R3 upon magnitude of R1 minus R3. So basically I'm trying to say that these two vectors are anti-parallel vector. So I'm writing this equation to explain the fact that these are anti-parallel vector. So we have this first equation and then we have this second equation. Now using this I can rewrite this equation. If I take this on the negative side, so if there is already a negative sign, I can omit the negative sign and rewrite this equation in this way: Q2 upon R2 minus R3 whole square equals Q1 upon R1 minus R3 whole square. So we have removed the negative sign because R13 cap and R23 cap are anti-parallel vectors, so that negative sign have balanced each other out, that is made itself into a positive. And if we solve this particular equation taking a square root, we can write it as root over Q2 R1 minus R3 equals root over Q1 R3 minus R2, and from here we obtain R3 as root over Q2 R1 plus root over Q1 R2 upon root over Q1 plus root over Q2, which is the first requirement for this particular question. That is the position of R3 vector. Now we need to frame one more equation to solve this particular question. So what if we discuss about the equilibrium of Q1? So if I discuss equilibrium of Q1, I can say that the repulsive force of 2 on 1 is balanced by the attractive force of 3 on 1. So if we write such an equation, we can frame an equation for equilibrium of Q1. So for equilibrium of charge Q1, so if we frame this equation for the equilibrium of charge Q1, we can write it as K Q1 Q3 R3 minus R1 upon R3 minus R1 cube plus K Q1 Q2 R2 minus R1 upon R2 minus R1 cube is equal to 0. Now over here we can take KQ1 common, and we can write this equation to frame this equation as Q3 R3 minus R1 upon R3 minus R1 cube plus Q2 R2 minus R1 upon R2 minus R1 cube, which is equal to 0. And from here I can write Q3 as minus Q2 upon R2 minus R1 square R1 minus R3 square. So this is the another equation which we have. Now from here, if we substitute the value of R3 in this particular question, so we will obtain this value of Q3 as minus Q1 Q2 upon root over Q1 plus root over Q2 whole square. So this is the solution for this particular question. The basic idea behind solving this question is to equate the force and understand this particular fact that these two position vectors, or these two vectors, that is r13 vector and r23 vector, are anti-parallel to each other, and we are using the vector form of Coulomb's law. So if you are comfortable with these two equations, you will definitely be able to solve this kind of question. So let us move to the next question. It is asking 10 positively charged particles are kept fixed on the x-axis at points 10 cm, 20 cm, 30 cm till 100 cm mark. The first particle has a charge of 1 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb. The second one is having a charge of 8 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb. The third is having 27 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb, and so on. The 10th particle has a charge of 1000 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb. Find the magnitude of electric force acting on a 1 coulomb charge placed at the origin. So for this particular question, we first of all draw an x-axis. As such, there is no need of drawing a y-axis, but we are drawing a y-axis just to locate the origin. So we say this is a y-axis and this is our origin where the charge is placed. Now the important points in the question is a 10 centimeter mark, 20 centimeter mark, 30 centimeter mark, and at a far away point 100 centimeter mark. Now the charges which are placed at these points are 1 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb, 8 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb, 27 into 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb, and over here 1000 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 8 coulomb. So these are the charges that are placed at these points, and a 1 coulomb charge is placed at origin, at which the total force is to be determined. So if I write an equation, I say that if all these are positively charged particles, so all of them will produce a net electric field in the negative x-axis direction, because electric field is directed away from the positive charges, and the force on this 1 coulomb charge will be written as Q E net. Now since this charge is equal to 1 coulomb, so the force will become equal to E net, because Q is equal to 1 coulomb. So now if we substitute the equation for E net, let us frame an equation for the net electric field. So the net electric field can be written as E net can be written as For the first charge, we write it as k into 1 into 10 to the power minus 8, that is kq, and the separation is 10 centimeter. So we write it as 10 by 100 whole square. So it is kq by r square. For the next charge, I write it as k multiply by 2 into 10 to the power minus 8 upon the distance is 20 centimeter. So we write it as 20 by 100 whole square. For the next, we mention it as k into q, that is 27 into 10 to the power minus 8, and the distance from origin is 30 centimeter. So we write it as 30 by 100 whole square, and it goes on till we finally write for the 10th charge, that is k 1000 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 8 upon the distance is 100, so 100 by 100 whole square. So we are writing equation in this fashion just to maintain uniformity in the way we write or the frame the equation. So on substituting the values over here, we get the values as k multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. For the another one, we are getting 2 into 10 to the power minus 6 multiplied by k. For the next, we are getting it as 3 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6 multiplied by k. And then finally, for the 10th one, we get 10 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6 multiplied by k. So this is the value of the E net, or we can say equivalent value of force for this particular question can be written in this fashion. So if we take k into 10 to the power minus 6 as common, so we are left with AP series over here, 1 plus 2 plus 3 till 10. And we can write it as 10 into 11 n plus 1 by 2. Multiply it by k into 10 to the power minus 6. K can be written as 9 into 10 to the power 9 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6. And this entire value will give us the value of force or E net. And we put this values and we obtain it as 4.95 into 10 to the power 3 Newton. So I hope the idea is clear for this particular question as to how to frame the equations and write the formula for this particular question. Let us move to the next one. A water particle of mass 10 milligram and having a charge of 1.5 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 6 coulomb stays suspended in a room. What is the magnitude of electric field in the room, and what is its direction? So now this is a much simpler question. So for this kind of question, the question is asking that there is a charged liquid droplet. In this case, it is given water. It can also be given in terms of oil being charged. So it is having a certain mass. It is going to exert a force equivalent to its weight, that is mg, in the downward direction. And if it has to remain suspended in the room, then it must be counterbalanced by the electrostatic force which is acting in the upward direction, which is equal to QE. So if these two forces equate with each other, so we say for equilibrium the electrostatic force must be balanced by the magnitude of the gravitational force, and hence we can write it as QE. So the water particle is having this we are asked, and the charge is given as 1.5 10 to the power minus 6 into electric field E, which is not known, is equal to mg. So it is important that we put the value in kg. So in order to put this in kg, we are writing it as 10 upon milligram, so divide by 1000. To convert gram into kg, again 1000, and then we multiply it by g. So we are taking g as 10. So if we put these values over here together, we find electric field as equivalent to 1.5 into 10 to the power 3 Newton per coulomb. So let us move to the next question. A rod of length L has a total charge Q distributed uniformly along its length. It is bent in the shape of a semicircle. Find the magnitude of electric field at the center of curvature of the semicircle. So, in order to solve this problem, I am first of all deducing a general equation for electric field due to an arc of charge. And then we will put the necessary values and we can easily solve this kind of question. So, for this particular question, we are saying that a particular rod of length L, something like this, is having a plus q charge distributed along its length. So if plus q charge is distributed along its length, so we can say that lambda is charge per unit length. Charge per unit length, or we can say that lambda equals q by L, which we will use later in the problem. Now it is bent in the form of a semicircle. For the time being, I am drawing arc. I am not drawing a semicircle, I am drawing an arc which is having this positive charge distributed around it. And now I am drawing a center line just for symmetry. And if the arc length is of the radius is r, so we are considering something like this, that the radius is r and it is subtending angle alpha on both sides. So in order to get this solved, at an angle theta, we are selecting a small patch d theta like this. So from the center theta, we are selecting a small patch d theta like this. So the length of this portion is going to become r d theta. So angle is equal to arc length upon radius. So we are calculating the arc length is r d theta. So if I write the charge on this particular segment, we say lambda is equal to dq and the total length is r d theta. So from here we can calculate the small charge dq as lambda r d theta. Now due to this small charge, an electric field is produced in this direction, suppose dE. And there is a component of electric field which is going to act in this direction. This angle will also become theta and it can be written as dE cos theta. And this component on dE sin theta is going to be balanced by the electric field on the other side. That is, this portion is producing an electric field on this side, this portion is going to produce an electric field on the other side, and the net summation is going to be 0. So we are writing electric field along y-axis as dE cos theta. So we can write it as, this dE can be written as k q, that is lambda r d theta upon r square, and we multiply this with cos theta. So this is the particular equation we are looking for, and if we integrate it out, so we get it as k lambda upon r integration of cos theta d theta, and the value is going to be from minus alpha to plus alpha. So if we solve this particular equation, we get it as k lambda by r, and integration of cos theta is sin theta minus alpha, and then this is plus alpha. So we get this as 2k lambda by r into sin theta, where it must be very well kept in mind, sorry, sin alpha, when we put the value we get it as sin alpha. So now over here one thing is evident. For this particular question, it is saying that there is a semicircular arc. So if it is a semicircular arc, so the angle alpha is going to be 90 degree. So this is going to be 90 degree. So if I put the value equivalent to 90 degree in this particular question, we get the magnitude of electric field as twice upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Now we are putting lambda as charge per unit length, that is Q by L. The next thing is to put the value of radius. So what is going to be radius? So I say that the total arc length is going to become equal to pi r, and pi r is equal to L. So I can write pi r is equal to L. So L r can be written as L by pi. So over here we are writing r as L by pi, and this is equal to sine 90 degree, that is 1. So if we put all the values correctly, we get it as Q upon 2 epsilon naught L square. So this is the answer for this particular question. So let us move to the next question. An electrostatic field line is a continuous curve. That is, a field line cannot have sudden breaks. The question is asking why not. And the second one is explain why two field lines never cross each other at any point. So it is a theoretical question. So I am giving you an answer. Just make sure that you are noting it down. I am not writing anything on screen. So an electrostatic field line is a continuous curve because charge experiences a continuous force when traced in an electrostatic field. The field line cannot have sudden breaks because the charge moves continuously and does not jump from one point to the other. So that is the reason why we are saying that electrostatic field line is a continuous curve. And the next question which is asking is explain why two field lines never crisscross each other at any point. It is because a tangent dropped on the electric field line gives us the direction of electric field intensity at that point. So if the two curves are crisscrossing each other, then we will get the two direction or the two tangents. That is, it will point out two directions of electric field at a particular point, which is not possible. And hence we say that electric field lines never crisscross each other. So let us move to the next question. Now this one is a very interesting question. Over here, the question is asking us which among the curves shown in the figure given below cannot possibly represent the electrostatic field lines. So the question is asking which of the following cannot represent electrostatic field lines. Now for the field lines, I wish to tell you some basic points which must be very well kept in mind. The first point which we say is the electric field lines originate at positive charge and terminate at negative charge. The second one is electric field lines do not cut each other or do not crisscross each other. The next one is electric field line is always running in the direction of decreasing potential. The next one is the electrostatic field lines are perpendicular to equipotential surfaces. So now using these facts which we already know, so let us analyze each case over here. So let us begin with the first one. So in the first one, a conductor is given and electric field lines are coming out of it. So for over here, so my particular opinion is the field lines shown over here do not represent electrostatic field line because field lines must be normal to the surface of conductor, which is not taking place over here. As I mentioned, the electrostatic field lines must be perpendicular to equipotential surfaces, and the surface of a conductor is equipotential. So the field lines must be perpendicular or normal to the surface of the conductor, which is not happening in this case. So we are saying that it do not represent electrostatic field line. Let us move to the next example, B part. The field lines shown over here also do not represent electrostatic field line because the field lines cannot emerge from a negative charge and cannot terminate at a positive charge. So at these places we are saying that the field lines are emanating from the negative charge and moving towards the positive charge, which is incorrect. So again this example is also incorrect. Don't miss out the answer with this tick. I'm trying to say that it is incorrect. When I come to this problem, I make a tick over there. So next let us go to the third example, that is C. Now this time I say that the field lines represents electric field lines, this is because the field lines emerge from the positive charges and are repelling each other. So this one is absolutely correct. So the question is asking which one of the below cannot possibly represent. So A is not representing electric field line, B is not representing electric field line, C is representing electric field line. Now let us move to the next example D. Again over here, these lines are cutting each other out. So they are not representing electric field lines. The electric field lines do not intersect each other or do not cut each other. So they are not representing electric field lines. And then let us move to the last example. Over here, uh, in this part also, the field lines which is shown over here do not represent electric field lines because these closed loops are formed. And electric field lines do not form closed loops. Electric field lines do not form closed loop. Do not form closed loops. So hence this one is also incorrect. So for this particular case only C option is correct, but the question is asking cannot possibly represent. So A is not representing. Why? Because electric field lines are perpendicular to equipotential surfaces, and since the surface of conductor is equipotential, so the electric field lines must be normal to the surface of conductor. B is again incorrect because the electric field lines is going from the negative charge towards the positive charge, which is incorrect. The electric field line is going from the positive to the negative charges. C is correct because electric field lines are emanating from positive charge and are repelling each other, and they do not crisscross each other at any point. Again, the D part is incorrect because the electric field lines are intersecting with each other, and E part is incorrect because they are forming closed loops over here, which is again not possible. So let us deal with the next question. A ball of mass 100 gram and having a charge of 4.9 into 10 to the power minus 5 coulomb is released from rest in a region where a horizontal electric field of 2 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb exists. The question is asking find the resultant force acting on the ball, what will be the path of the ball, and where will the ball be at the end of 2 seconds. So this is the question that is asked. So I'm considering this way that this is a ball. Now it is placed in a region of horizontal electric field. So I'm considering that the electric field is in this direction, and the value of electric field is given to us as 2 into 10 to the power 4 Newton per coulomb. Now the force which is acting on the ball can be written as QE in this direction and a force mg in this direction due to the gravitational force. So the first thing that we do is we calculate these two forces individually. So first of all we are calculating the gravitational force which is acting in the downward direction, which is equals 100 gram. We are dividing it by 1000 to make it into kg and then multiply it by 9.8 meter per second square. For this particular question, we are using this value of g as 9.8. So on getting this, we get 0.98 Newton. Now the next thing which we calculate over here is the value of or the magnitude of electrostatic force, which is equal to QE. So if I put the value, the charge is given as 4.9 into 10 to the power minus 5 multiply by 2 into 10 to the power 4. So QE is again going to give us 0.98 Newton. So for this particular question, we say 0.98 Newton is the force for both the gravitational part and this part. So we are going to say that the net force which the particle is going to experience is going to be the resultant of these two forces. So the resultant force is going to be F electrostatic square plus F gravitation square. Now since they both are same, so we are writing it as root 2F. So if I multiply it by root 2, so we are getting somewhat like 1.38 Newton. So for this particular question, the first answer is 1.38 Newton. Now the question is asking what will be the path of the ball. Now since the resultant of both these forces are in this direction, and they both are equal force, so I say it is making an angle of 45 degree. So I can easily say that the particle is going to move in a straight line along the resultant force at an angle of 45 degree with the horizontal. So this is going to be the path of the ball. So the next one which is asked is, where will be the ball be at the end of 2 seconds? So now at the end of 2 seconds, now since the horizontal and the vertical forces are same, so we first of all calculate the displacement along the vertical direction, which is going to be equal to the displacement in the horizontal direction. So the magnitude of both of them is going to be same. So ut is 0, we just need to do half at square. A is 9.8 and t square is 4. So over here we obtain 19.6 meter. So the net magnitude of displacement is going to be vertical square plus horizontal squared square root. So on solving we obtain 19.6, again the same thing. So we write it as root 2 times of 19.6, and we get a equivalent value of 27.7 meter. So for this particular question, these three are the answers which we obtained. Let us move to the next question. 12 joule of work has to be done against an existing electric field to take a charge of 0.01 coulomb from A to B. How much is the potential difference VB minus VA? So this is a very easy question. So potential difference is defined as work done per unit charge. So we say that the potential difference between the 2 points is written as work done per unit charge, and the question is asking us what is going to be the potential difference when 12 joule of work is done in order to shift a charge of 0.01 coulomb. So we can easily say that the potential difference is 1200 volt for this particular question. So let us move to the next question. Two equal charges, 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb each, are held fixed at a separation of 20 centimeter. A third charge of equal magnitude is placed midway between the two charges. It is then now moved to a point 20 centimeter from both the charges. How much work is done by electric field during the process? So if I draw this configuration, so over here the question is saying that the two like charges are placed at a distance of 20 centimeter, and a third identical charge is placed midway between them over here. So we are considering that these distances are equal to r. So now in the question, the initial separation of 2r is equal to 20 centimeter. So over here I am writing that r equals 10 centimeter, which we will use it as 10 by 100 meter in SI unit. Now this was the initial configuration, after which the question is saying that the charges are placed such that the three forms an equilateral triangle, that is they are equidistant from one another. So the system is going to look like this. So this is the final configuration for this particular system, and the separation between them becomes 2r, that is 20 centimeter. So all these distances are equal to 2r. The question is asking the amount of work done by the electric field during this process. So if I write the initial potential energy for the system, so I am calling this as charge 1, this is 2, and this is the third one. So this is 1, this is 2, and this is the third one. So Q1, Q2 and Q3, they all are equal in magnitude, and that is equal to 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulomb. So if we first of all write the initial potential energy of the system, we write it as K Q1 Q2 upon 2R plus K Q1 Q3 upon R plus K Q2 Q3 upon R. And the final potential energy is written as K Q1 Q2 upon 2R plus K Q1 Q3 upon 2R plus K Q2 Q3 upon 2R. So these are the two values of potential energy of the initial and final system, and then we can write that the work done equals U2 minus U1, that is the final configuration minus the initial configuration. So if we subtract the two, these two parameters will eventually cancel out, and we will be left with the equation K Q1 Q3 by R half minus 1 plus K Q2 Q3 by R half minus 1, and we will write the magnitude of the work done the question is asking for. So if we substitute the values over here, we get KQ square by 2R minus KQ square by 2R, which we can write it as eventually KQ square by R with a negative sign, and since we are only calculating the magnitude, we can write it as 9 into 10 to the power 9. Q square can be written as 4 into 10 to the power minus 14, and the distance can be written as 10 by 100 over here. So on putting the values over here, we obtain equivalent value of 3.6 into 10 to the power minus 3 joule. So for this particular question, we get 3.6 into 10 to the power minus 3 joule. So let us move to the next problem. The electrostatic potential existing in space is given as AXY plus YZ plus ZX. The question is asking write the dimensional formula of A, find the expression for the electric field. If A is 10 SI units, then find the magnitude of electric field at 1, 1, 1. So this is the question that is put up over here. So for this particular question, we say that V is measured in volt. So we can say that the unit for A will become volt per meter square. So if it becomes volt per meter square, so I can express the dimension in terms of work done per unit charge. So that is ml square t to the power minus 2 upon it or at into L square. So we get the dimensional formula for A as m t to the power minus 3 I to the power minus 1. So this is the dimensional formula for A. The next question is asking for the value of electric field. So the value of electric field can be written as E equals minus dV by dx I cap minus dV by dy j cap minus dV by dz k cap. So we have the expression for potential over here as AXY plus YZ plus ZX. So if we differentiate the value with respect to X, then with respect to Y, and then with respect to Z, and fix the value of I cap, J cap, and K cap, we obtain something like, if we differentiate with respect to X, we will left with Y and Z over here. Similarly, when we differentiate with respect to Y, we are left with X and Z. So we can clearly write this equation as minus A, which is treated as common, Y plus Z I cap then with respect to Y, so we are getting A, so we are differentiating with respect to Y, we get X plus Z J cap, and then when we are with respect to Z, we are getting A X plus Y K cap. And we are taking the negative common, so we get something like this for this particular problem. Now we just need to put the value in the second part. Over here the question is asking find the magnitude of electric field at 1, 1, 1. So if I add 1 plus 1, it will become 2. 2 into 10 is becoming 20. So for the C part, I can write as that electric field expression or the electric field equation will become minus 20 I cap, minus 20 J cap, minus 20 K cap, and if we are only calculating the magnitude, then we can write it as root over 20 square plus 20 square plus 20 square, or we can write it as 20 root 3 Newton per coulomb. And on solving, we approximately obtain 35 Newton per coulomb for this particular problem. Let us move to the next question. Some equipotential surfaces are as shown in the figure given below. What can you say about the magnitude and direction of the electric field? So electric field is in the direction of decreasing potential. This is the first concept which we are using, and the next one is the electric field is in the direction of decreasing potential, and the next one is the electric field lines are perpendicular to equipotential surfaces. So if they are perpendicular to equipotential surfaces, I can draw perpendicular lines like this, perpendicular to these lines. And since it is in the direction of decreasing potential, so we say that electric field is in this direction. So if I draw again, I say something like this, that electric field is in the direction of decreasing potential, something like this. The electric field in the direction of decreasing potential, that is, it is something like this. So if I select one such triangle from here, that is this one, I can draw this as something like this, that the direction of electric field is in this direction, that is E vector, and the separation between them is in centimeter, which is equal to 10 centimeter, and this angle is 30 degree and this one is 90 degree. So the separation between the two equipotential lines will be treated as ER, where this is the R we are using, and the potential difference is 10 volt. So the first thing that we do is we calculate this distance, that is equal to equivalent value of R. So for this we write it as potential difference value can be equated with E dot dr for this particular case. So we are doing it in this way, that the potential difference is equal to 10 volt and the value of E is asked, and for the separation between them we are using this value of R over here which can be written as, so from here I can write that sine 30 degree equals perpendicular by hypotenuse. So we can write it as R as 10 by 2 centimeter, which is equal to 5 centimeter. So we can write over here 5 centimeter is 5 by 100. So we get electric field as 200 volt per meter. So this is the magnitude of electric field. The question is also asking the direction. So it is since it is making an angle of 90 degree with this axis, so I can say that the total angle is becoming 120 degree with the x-axis. Care must be taken that we are taking the value of R in the direction of electric field. So we are writing it as potential difference equals E dot dr. So let us move to the next problem. A charge of 8 millicoulomb, we call it as Q1, which is equal to 8 into 10 to the power minus 3 coulomb, is located at origin. Calculate the work done in taking a small charge, which is equal to Q2 minus 2 into 10 to the power minus 9 coulomb from a point P, which is 0, 0, 3, to a point Q, which is 0, 4, 0, via point R. So the first thing is clear about this question, that this point R doesn't contribute anything for this particular question, because electric field is an example of conservative force field and it just depends upon the initial and final position and is irrespective of the path which the particle takes during its journey from one point to the another. So the question which we are asked is to calculate the work done. So work done can simply be written as the change in potential energy. So if I write the initial potential energy for the system, so the separation between them initially is 3 centimeter because it is 0, 0, 3. So D1 is equal to 3 centimeter. We are writing it as 3 by 100 meter. So initial potential can be written as K Q1 Q2 by D1, and the final value can be written as K Q1 Q2 by D2, where D2 is equal to 4 centimeter, which we write it as 4 by 100 meter. Now the next thing which is clear is that it is an example of an attractive force, so potential energy is going to be negative. Since these forces are attractive in nature, so the potential energy is going to be negative. And hence now if we write the formula for work done, that is final minus initial, so we get this equation as K Q1 Q2 by D1 minus K Q2 Q1 Q2 by D2. So if we substitute the value over here, we get it as 1.27 joule. We just have to put the value of Q1, Q2, D1 and D2. So we get the value equivalent to 1.27 joule for this particular question. So with this, we have come to an end for the questions of electrostatics 1. The next portion will be electrostatics 2, and we will deal with much more questions in the next segment.